We've got some alarming breaking news this evening. ABC just announced that it's pulling Jimmy Kimmel off the air indefinitely due to his recent comments about the Charlie Kirk shooting.
Breaking news. Robert Garcia, ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, promises an investigation into the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel. What? Yes. Robert Garcia, ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, a Democrat from California, promises an investigation into the Trump administration, into Brendan Carr, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, into Sinclair Broadcasting Group, into ABC, into Nexstar, amid the ongoing fight to censor opposition to the President of the United States. He will use his powers as ranking member on the House Oversight Committee to do so. He said directly as a quote, "Every American has the duty to stand up for our First Amendment values. We will not be silent as our freedoms are threatened by corrupt schemes and by threats. Anyone who is complicit will need to answer to us." What? Yes. Robert Garcia is not going to allow this continue to happen. We, as the loyal opposition and as Americans in general, should be concerned that our First Amendment rights are being threatened under the Trump administration. Donald Trump and his team, I'll be polite and call them that, want to stop anything said about Donald Trump that they don't like. Likewise, they can say whatever they want to say, and we'll talk about Fox News in another video. How they can say anything, or MAGA can say anything, and it's never an issue, no matter how divisive, problematic, or terrible it may be. But you say what Jimmy Kimmel said, which was nothing bad at all, and whoops! And Trump threatened a month or so ago after Colbert that Jimmy Kimmel was next. So again, this is what you see under a dictatorship. Well, Robert Garcia is going to fight back. And likewise, at this point, the Democrats only have 6 fewer votes than the Republicans in the House of Representatives to control it. As of next Tuesday, there'll be one more Democrat representing Arizona 7. I'll talk about that in another video. We're only a few votes away from controlling the House. Next year's election is more important than ever. We control the House. We clip Trump's power. That's it. Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, my burned out light bulbs. Let me know what you think. Speak up. Do not be afraid. Do not be silent. Use your First Amendment right. We will not allow them to take it away.
So the reports broke last night mostly that there were multiple reasons why Jimmy Kimmel was pulled off the air. But chief among them was, not only was he not planning on apologizing when he was going to go back out on his show Wednesday evening, he was planning on attacking MAGA, attacking words. My words are being purposefully twisted. He was planning on saying, per a report in the Wall Street Journal. See, it's our fault that we didn't understand that really he was supposed to be super supportive of MAGA. He wasn't pointing the finger at MAGA. Just a reminder for those of you who hadn't heard them, here's what he said on Monday night that caused the trouble. Sat one.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Unbelievable. I mean, like every word there was untrue. Like literally every word he said was false and an intentional smear. And the shooter had nothing whatsoever to do with MAGA, which he knew. And I'll tell you how I know he knew. Jimmy Kimmel has made perfectly clear in the past that he's factual. He's super factual. Is this a SOT, guys, or is this just a quote? But he got into his own little dispute with Aaron Rodgers, the football player, who had suggested Jimmy Kimmel might be on the Epstein list. And Jimmy Kimmel was very upset about that allegation. And Jimmy Kimmel went out on his show and said the following in January of 2024.
He decided to insinuate that I am a pedophile. This is how these nuts do it now. You don't like Trump? You're a pedophile. It's their go-to move. And it shows you how much they actually care about pedophilia. And as far as the, well, you say things about people all the time argument goes, yes, I do. It's not the same. It's not even close to the same. We say a lot of things on this show. We don't make up lies. In fact, we have a team of people who work very hard to sift through facts and reputable sources before I make a joke. And that's an important distinction because the truth still matters. And when I do get something wrong, which happens on rare occasions, you know what I do? I apologize for it, which is what Aaron Rodgers should do, which is what a decent person would do.
So he is what we would call in the law a fucking liar, because he says he has a team of fact checkers that don't allow him to say lies, and that if he errs, he'll go out there and apologize and clear it up. But he was entirely wrong in trying to blame this shooting on MAGA and saying this shooter was affiliated with MAGA or one of theirs, and he knew it. And the reason I know he knew it is because he says he has a team of researchers that researches every fact before he says it on his show. And what we knew as of Monday night was that this shooter, well, yes, he had Republican parents. Do your parents, does their...
So we face a challenge to our freedom of speech. Jimmy Kimmel's suspension shows us how easily voices can be silenced. When we cancel those who make us think or laugh, we risk losing important conversations. I personally loved Jimmy Kimmel and I enjoyed his shows. We must protect the right to speak freely. Whether it makes you feel uncomfortable, we must. Regardless, the left or the right, the rest, we have to protect the freedom to speak.
Get the boxing gloves out, because it's time for a fight. By now, we all know that Jimmy Kimmel was fired and his show was canceled. But here's the twist. Instead of walking away quietly, Jimmy Kimmel said, not too fast. He filed a lawsuit suing Disney and the parent company ABC for $1 billion. The claims are allegedly for contract disputes, creative control, and damages to his reputation. If this lawsuit goes forward, it could be one of the biggest celebrity versus corporation battles in Hollywood that courts have ever seen. So what it really comes down to, do we really have the freedom of speech? Or is everything that anyone say that anyone else disagrees with going to cause people to lose their jobs, get fired, and get canceled? So until this plays out, Disney, I guess you better start selling some vacation, booking some cruises, and getting some subscriptions, because $1 billion is a big payout. So do y'all think Jimmy Kimmel got a valid lawsuit? Drop y'all comments below. And like, share, comment, and repost.
Boom! Take that, Jimmy Kimmel! Your stupid show just got canceled. Why? Because you're making up lies about MAGA, about Charlie Kirk, and finally Disney and ABC had the courage to finally cancel your show. No more fake news.
So Democrats are losing their minds because Jimmy Kimmel was suspended from ABC because of free speech. Now they all of a sudden discover free speech. But let me ask you something, Democrats. Where was this passion when Charlie Kirk was taken out, not suspended, not fired, taken out because of free speech? I didn't see no Democrats crying out for it, right? It was mostly Republicans. And another one. Where was this outrage when Donald Trump, the sitting president of the United States, was taken off of Twitter, was taken off of Facebook because of free speech? Then what was the outrage then? Now you want us to talk about free speech when one of your guys got taken off finally for the first time, but you did not care at all. Actually, you praised the fact that Facebook and Twitter took out Donald Trump, the sitting president of the United States. The hypocrisy is off the charts. What do you guys think about Democrats losing their minds because they say free speech is now under attack? Please leave me a comment below.
Okay, let me get this straight, because since I'm a conservative, I'm dumb, right? Jimmy Kimmel's employers relieved him of his duty because to them, he was costing them more money than he was making, because he's a failed comedian. He's not funny. It costs way too much to produce his sets. And then in return, he's only getting a handful of views. His employer suspended his shows indefinitely. His employers did that. And the left, politicians and influencers are blaming conservatives and Donald Trump, of course. They're saying it's our fault, it's his fault, it's their fault. You know the deal. But this is the part that I don't get, right? Toward the end of Donald Trump's presidency and into the whole term where he was the former president of the United States, he was completely canceled, silenced, lost his Twitter, lost his Instagram, lost his Facebook, all of it, gone, right? The left called for that simply because of mean tweets. Y'all remember that? They celebrated it when he got canceled, right? So, of course, a lot of even the court cases and all of that kind of stuff, we couldn't see or know nothing that was going on unless mainstream media allowed us to see what they doctored and wanted us to see. Oh, but he ain't the only one. Because when Tucker Carlson got released from Fox over pretty much the same kind of complaints, right? They celebrated. They laughed. Matter of fact, Jimmy Kimmel himself laughed about it and talked about it and celebrated it on his show. When Megyn Kelly got fired from doing the same thing, they all fucking celebrated. Mind you, at the time, Megyn Kelly wasn't even leaning too far with the conservative movement. She just was someone who was unapologetically blunt and spoke her truth. Now, the left is whining and bitching and screaming, saying, oh, this is the end of free speech. Look it. Donald Trump went on Bounce Back. He created his own platform, Truth Social. He regained his popularity on X and Instagram and all of that. He fought through it. Tucker Carlson created his own network. He's a multi-millionaire because he never cried and whined and rolled over. Megyn Kelly, the same thing. Shit, even bum-ass Don Lemon, he's trying to do the same thing. He's lame, and it's not really working out for him because he is lame. But the point I'm trying to make here is that all these other people bounce back from their downfall, which y'all would say was their own fault, right? Why can't fucking Jimmy Kimmel do the same shit, huh? What, does he need a giant corporation behind him to spread his hate and lies? Do we, taxpayer, need to pay for that shit, huh? But see, the main part that pisses me off with this whole fucking situation is they are screaming and whining, oh, this is the end of free speech. I can't believe we're seeing this. This is happening in real time. Shut the fuck up. Y'all just assassinated Charlie Kirk for the same fucking thing. And he didn't even have these tax-paying organizations behind him, these multi-million-dollar corporations. He built everything himself from the ground up. And he was effective, right? Y'all tried so hard to silence Charlie Kirk, right? They tried nagging him. They go everywhere where he is. They mass reported all of his accounts to the point where even TikTok took down his accounts, where he had to reach out to the owners of TikTok directly to get them to put up back his account. And when that didn't work, then all these little minions followed him everywhere he was, annoying him. And when none of that worked, y'all put a fucking bullet in the guy in front of his wife and children, along with thousands of other people witnessing it on air for the fucking world to see. And y'all bitches have the motherfucking nerve to come sit up on the internet talking about the right wants to cancel free speech when y'all literally killing it. Get the fuck off the internet, y'all bitches. Fuck.
There are people that are actually trying to paint what's happening right now with Jimmy Kimmel as a freedom of speech issue. I've even seen some people go as far as to share the wrong clip. So they're sharing a clip from his show and they're saying that that's the one that got him in hot water. Well, that's not the case, making it seem like this is just a difference of opinion and that's why he's getting canceled. No, that couldn't be farther from the truth. So we're going to go through the exact quote and the exact reason, the exact rule violation that got Jimmy Kimmel in hot water and his show possibly kicked off the air permanently. So first off, ABC, which Jimmy Kimmel works under, is a local broadcast station. All local broadcast stations are different than the obscure news channel that you pay for. They have, those local stations always have to act in the best interest of the public because they're local broadcast and they have to adhere by FCC rules. And some of these are pretty strict rules. So first, let's go through the exact quote that was given on Jimmy Kimmel, and then we're going to go through the exact violation. So Jimmy Kimmel says on his show, we hit, and this is after the press conference with the governor, the FBI, all of the authorities, after families have spoken to authorities and the media. So all of the evidence proves that, unfortunately, Tyler Robinson was radicalized by left-leaning politics. So after all this is available, this is what Jimmy Kimmel says on his show. We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who took the life of Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. And now here is the FCC rule violation. So one of the rules specifically states the broadcast by a station of false information concerning a crime or catastrophe violates the FCC rules if the station license knew that the information was false, broadcasting the false information directly causes substantial public harm, and it was foreseeable that broadcasting this false information would cause such harm. So that is what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. That's why he's been removed from the air. And what's happening is you have a lot of people that used to be able to hold this monopoly on public information now facing consequences for not really holding that monopoly anymore. Thank you to new media, independent journalists, and the internet, social media.
Well, Rolling Stone is now confirming what we all know happened with Jimmy Kimmel's show being canceled by the Trump administration. According to their new reporting, quote, in the hours leading up to the decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel, two sources familiar with the matter say senior executives at ABC, its owner Disney, and affiliates convened emergency meetings to figure out how to minimize the damage. Multiple executives felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, but the threat of Donald Trump and his retaliation loomed. And when you actually listen to Jimmy Kimmel's comments, which I posted on my page, you can see that they are very mild. He's not even making fun of Charlie Kirk. He's making fun of Donald Trump. These executives know that Jimmy Kimmel did not say anything outrageous, yet they are bending the knee to Donald Trump because they're scared of him. They're scared of retaliation or having licenses pulled. Two things are clear from this story. Number one, these big companies are not going to protect us. Independent media is more important than ever. But number two, Donald Trump is coming for our rights. It's not a hypothetical. It's not something that might happen in the future. It's happening right now before our very eyes.
When the late and great Charlie Kirk was still alive, he posted this: hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. This was a meme right below the post saying the truth sounds like hate to those that hate the truth. And Megyn Kelly was even more passionate than Charlie Kirk about free speech. Listen to this.
In America, we have the right of free speech. We have the right to offend, to provoke, to annoy, and to stand up for what we believe in, even if you find it controversial.
But I disagree. I believe hate speech and free speech are slightly different things. Because hate speech, as defined by the Cambridge Dictionary, is public speech that expresses hate or encourages violence toward a person or group based on something such as race, religion, sex, or orientation, or other. Now, let me show you something, and you tell me if it encourages an act of violence toward a group of people.
Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
So Brian Kilmeade says that we should get rid of homeless people, a group of people, through an act of violence. Actually worse, through involuntary lethal injection. That's clearly hate speech given the definition we already went over. So why didn't Brian Kilmeade get taken off the air right after that? Why didn't he get canceled? Now, as you know, Jimmy Kimmel did get canceled for supposed hate speech. Let's take our definition and see if what he said was actual hate speech.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Now, my hearing may not be the best, but I did not hear a single threat toward a group of people or a person. There was no threat.
There was no hate speech. So that must mean what Jimmy Kimmel said falls under free speech, the First Amendment.
We have the right to offend.
Why did he get canceled if it falls under free speech and the First Amendment? Because just like in North Korea, China, and Russia, Donald Trump has suddenly taken it upon himself to declare speaking out against him just because he won the election illegal. Take a listen.
They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad. See, I think that's really illegal, personally. You can't have a free airwaves. You're getting free airwaves from the United States government, and you can't have that and say, and somebody that just won an election.
President Trump, by canceling Jimmy Kimmel, you are disrespecting what Charlie Kirk believed in. You're disrespecting Charlie Kirk's legacy.
Donald Trump wants you to think that we have already lost, that we have been defeated, that we cannot fight back against his authoritarian project, but that is simply not true. Every day, Donald Trump loses in court. He loses in the court of public opinion with his tanking approval rating, and we can win this fight, and we are going to on the issue of free speech, because after Donald Trump forced the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel last night, he was immediately hit back with a legal bombshell that is blowing up this attack on speech. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into that legal bombshell and how this administration is panicking, I want to start with what I thought was a perfect response to Donald Trump's attack on free speech from J.B. Pritzker, and give up on any values you purport to have, then it's really easy to be MAGA. These people don't care about speech. They've never cared about speech. We have to stop pretending like they are good faith actors. This is what we see with those, even on the left right now, lionizing Charlie Kirk. We see folks like Ezra Klein saying he did politics the right way and cared about free speech. That's just bullshit. Charlie Kirk was at college campuses to make a profit and to get his clips to go viral. Sure, he wanted to change people's minds with bigoted ideas and disgusting bile, but he didn't care about free speech. He didn't advocate for the freeing of Mahmoud Khalil, who Donald Trump has now ordered to be deported again for speaking out against a genocide that we are aiding in with our tax dollars. No, these people are low. Do you know what rating is really fucking low right now? Donald Trump's approval rating. That's what's tanking. That is what's in the shitter. It is not Jimmy Kimmel. This is so obvious. This administration could not care less about any of the ideas that they talked about as being fundamental on the campaign. The weaponization of government, that is all Donald Trump has done. The caring about the crisis of affordability, inflation is skyrocketing because of idiotic tariffs that are effectively taxes on working people. And now they want to make Charlie Kirk, that disgusting bigot, some martyr so that they can carry out the rest of this project. No, we're not going to let it happen. We're not going to accept defeat. Maybe that's what ABC wants to do, and ahead of time concede and say, oh, the Trump administration is going to come after us. We might as well concede. But we're not going to do that. We're going to fight back, and so is Robert Garcia and Eric Swalwell with some legal bombshells for Trump. Ranking member Robert Garcia launches investigation after ABC fires Jimmy Kimmel. Network caves to political pressure from Trump administration. Rep. Robert Garcia, ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, released the following statement announcing he will be launching an investigation into the Trump administration, ABC, and Sinclair amid ongoing efforts to censor opposition to the president. Garcia said, "Every American has a duty to stand up for our First Amendment values. We will not be silent as our freedoms are threatened by corrupt schemes and threats. Anyone who to go out there and fight them on everything." I have felt like for so long, and I don't just want to make this a criticism of Democrats, because of course who we want to criticize right now is Donald Trump, but our party needs to get in line and start acting like they care. So often we see Democrats, and I talked about this with Wes Moore, see an issue that maybe we're not the most popular on and go, well, you know, maybe we don't talk about that one. Maybe we shy away a little bit. It's bullshit. If you believe in your heart of hearts, if you are an elected official with policy that you think will make the world a better place, do not look at the polling. Do not look at the message testing. Go out there, deliver it, convince people. Your job is not to be a pawn for lobbyists and corporate money in AIPAC. It is to do the job of governing. And sometimes your positions may start as unpopular, work to make them popular. How far have we come on so many issues, even within the decade of Donald Trump attacking our rights, where we have shifted a public opinion in a way that is undeniable. Why? Because we've actually gone out there and talked about these issues. We have to do that. We have to have these conversations. We have to sue. We have to not write strongly worded letters, but call people in to be put under oath and have them try to squeam out of their crimes because they can't, they will be caught, and they should be prosecuted under the next Democratic administration. That is what we should have. Reopen Alligator Alcatraz for Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem, and fucking throw Pete Hegseth in there with a couple bottles of gin to keep him company. That is what we should be doing. We should make it very clear that we won't kowtow, we won't bow, we won't bend the knee, we won't say, well, I don't know, we can't take on every fight. There is so much saving of the munition. Right? We got to keep the powder dry. This isn't a political fight. Let's save up for the really good political fight. Every political fight should be had right now. This is an authoritarian. If you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. So stop giving him miles and then letting him take over the entire country. Fight back. Thank you, Robert Garcia. Thank you, Eric Swalwell. Thank you for making it clear that we should not bend on this. That we shouldn't say, well, you know, that's Trump. That's what Trump's going to do. That's what the corporations are going to do. They're ultimately going to cave. They're ultimately going to bend the knee. Get fired up. Convince people of why this is so important. The right had the majority of Americans believing that they cared more than we do about free speech. How is that playing out right now? Not very well. So you need to go out there and convince people. Don't worry about what the politics of any given issue are. Have some moral clarity on so many of these issues. Have we not seen the shift in how Americans view what is a genocide in Gaza? Have we not seen the huge swing in public opinion where now, maybe in the next administration, we can get our government out of this war crime that is sending our tax dollars, sending weapons to be used to kill innocent children in Gaza? Yeah, maybe we can move this issue forward. Maybe we can change how things are done. And why? Because public opinion has shifted. Because people have talked about this issue. They have had these heartbreaking images of children in Gaza in front of people's faces.
ABC made the announcement Kimmel would indeed be taken off the air indefinitely. And this is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down on free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless. So it was for the journeyman cable news host Tucker Carlson, just fired from his third network. He believed he could say anything, no matter how vile, no matter how disgusting, no matter how offensive, no matter dehumanizing or belittling. And if you act like a sociopath over and over and over and over, you will become unpopular on the national stage. That's just like a basic principle. Over time, probably not going to work out well for you in the long run. Eventually, people will be rightly offended, disgusted.
So when Tucker Carlson gets fired from the network, he's, hateful and crazy and vile and all these things. But when Jimmy Kimmel lies about a political assassination and misrepresents the person who did it and works to lead people to believe that it was Republicans who did it, it's fine. It's Trump's cracking down on free speech. So to keep it simple, when someone on the left gets fired for their words, it's a crackdown on free speech. When someone on the right gets fired for their words, they deserved it. They had it coming. You can't just continue to do these things and expect nothing to happen. That's what you get. These people are not principled. The whole point is oppose Donald Trump. Make Donald Trump and the right look bad. That's why you see his position flopping so much. It's not about being principled. It's about attacking the right. It's about making Donald Trump look bad. I mean, that's MSDNC for you. Not to mention, Jimmy Kimmel's numbers were continuously declining. They were probably looking at doing this anyway. This just gave him a good reason to do so. But I just want to point out the hypocrisy, and this is part of the reason why so many people hate Donald Trump and the right. Look at the difference in coverage. When someone on the right loses their position, they deserved it. When someone on the left loses their position, it's because Donald Trump is cracking down on your First Amendment rights. Again, the playbook is to demonize Donald Trump and make people hate Donald Trump, and millions upon millions upon millions of people have fallen for it. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Just a reminder, I have a free email newsletter where I go into more detail on many of these topics, and I give you morning updates there. It's a great place to get more in-depth information from me. The link is in my profile. Just go there. Once you click it, you'll see the screen right here. Drop your email in, hit subscribe, and you'll be good to go. So that's all I got for now. We'll see you in the next one.
We have breaking news right now. Donald Trump just made a stunning admission saying that media organizations cannot criticize him, and if they do, they'll face punishment, essentially. A stunning bombshell admission. Speaking on Air Force One to reporters, he said, quote, "When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative one in years or something. When you go back and take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that." Donald Trump is essentially saying that media organizations and late night television hosts are not allowed to criticize Donald Trump. Here's the deal. Of course they are. They are allowed to do that. But Donald Trump is making clear that if they criticize him, they could face the suspension of their show, like with Kimmel, or potentially the revocation of their media license as a whole. And independent media has never been so important in this moment because folks like us, we're not going to cave to the White House. We're not going to cave to Trump. So make sure to spread the word, subscribe to my Substack, support my work at the link in my bio. Follow along for more.
I could be the only person who is actually having this thought process, but the pragmatist in me is not allowing myself to get as outraged as I normally would be about the fact that Jimmy Kimmel just got fired, who is a comedian, for telling a joke, and here's why. And I think it's because at this stage, nothing really surprises me anymore by this administration, and I just come to expect fascist behavior. First and foremost, it is important for me to point out again that a late night comedian should not be held to the same level of responsibility as somebody who is doing the news. AKA a news anchor who is on the largest news platform in our country, who goes on there and says that homeless people who don't want to check themselves into rehabilitation should be euthanized. And what Jimmy Kimmel did as a late night comedian said that MAGA is doing everything they can to not point this at themselves. The next thing to point out is that Nexstar, who owns a majority of ABC affiliates in local markets, is the one that pulled Jimmy Kimmel's show, and then ABC folded to them because that is the conglomerate that actually holds the most power. And this is mainly because Nexstar needs the government to approve a $6 billion merger. And the Regulatory Commission, the FCC, basically told Nexstar, this is your choice, but you do have this merger coming up, so you can make your decision on how you want to go forward with this. Government tells Nexstar to get this show off the air. Nexstar goes to ABC and says, get the show off the air. ABC folds. And in fascist political systems, authoritarians decide what gets to be said and if there are consequences for things being said. And this is a very, very perfect example of this. But again, I'm no longer shocked by this because this has been happening now for the past 8 months. To me, this is the key lesson because authoritarian systems love to thrive on basically attacking anybody who doesn't, in their minds, tell what they believe to be the truth. And the unfortunate situation is that even though the Jimmy Kimmel Show is not a news station and it is a comedian act, he said something that was not factual and did not have evidentiary support to substantiate his claims. And in doing so, opened himself up to a fascist authoritarian regime. The rules within an authoritarian regime is that if you say anything that we don't like or that we believe to be baseless claims, then you are going to be penalized. And that is completely in violation of freedom of speech. And the right, of course, is saying this is the consequences of telling something that is not factually correct. But this goes in complete violation of their also fundamental belief that freedom of speech is being attacked. If Jimmy Kimmel was just another everyday human who just had a large following on his X account, he would not be facing the consequences he is. So yes, what he said should be protected under freedom of speech, but this is a very, very specific and poignant example of how when you involve freedom of speech with an authoritarian government and with corporate conglomerates who need the government, this is what happens. And if you're like, what the fuck was all the point of that? The point of it is this, is that I understand actually why this happened, just because I don't expect anything different, and this wasn't shocking to me.
Okay, let's play Who Said It? I'm going to read you 2 quotes from 2 different TV hosts, and you're going to tell me which one got their show suspended because of it. Okay, both of these quotes were said on national television within days of each other. Are you ready? Just a note, I changed some words to make this TikTok safe. All right, here's quote number 1. The MAGA gang is desperately trying to characterize this person who took Charlie Kirk's life as anything other than one of them. Okay, the result of that quote, show suspended indefinitely. All right, here's quote number 2. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources or you're going to be locked up in jail or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just them. That person made an apology, still is on the air. Of course, the first quote was Jimmy Kimmel talking about a political movement. The FCC chairman literally went on a podcast and threatened ABC's broadcast licenses unless they took action against Jimmy Kimmel. ABC and Disney folded immediately. That second quote, that was from Fox News host Brian Kilmeade, literally suggesting that we end the lives of homeless people. The FCC, radio silence. He still has his job. That's right. The federal government threatens a network for political comedy, but says nothing when someone suggests unaliving homeless people. This isn't about standards. It's about the government potentially violating our First Amendment rights. And that should terrify every single one of us. Look, you're not a free speech warrior if you only support speech that you agree with. What do you think? Follow me. I'm Sue O'Connell, a commentator who offers opinions about politics with NBC 10 Boston.
I'm glad Jimmy Kimmel got canceled because honestly, y'all needed to see a white man be silenced for y'all to get how absolutely fucking ridiculous this is. Y'all loved watching people lose their jobs over their opinions, even though y'all called it cancel culture when y'all were losing your jobs over your racism, which is not an opinion. It's a character flaw, right? Now, let me be clear. I love Jimmy Kimmel. I don't think he deserved to lose his show, but the fact that y'all are now saying, you know what, this is a little ridiculous. Why would they do that to Jimmy Kimmel? Y'all are remembering what happened to free speech. Y'all defended hate speech all the live long fucking day. And then when this happened, everybody all of a sudden was a prude. It was the pearl clutching. It was this, that, and the third. So you know what? I do hope that Jimmy Kimmel gets his show back, whether it be on a different network, whether that means like I don't know if you can go up against ABC because they got Disney. However, I do think that this is eye-opening for a lot of people. And so if it had to happen, it had to happen. But white people, don't let this go over your head, say that's a damn shame, and move on. Use that fucking fury for something, for fucking once, please.
My only issue with Jimmy Kimmel and this whole brouhaha he finds himself inflamed with is not that, oh my God, you can't say a joke. I am incredibly alarmed by what appears to be our First Amendment rights being attacked. This is what I do for a living. I don't like that. But you know he's coming. And you know part of the reason why is to get back at everybody who tried to take him down. They didn't try to keep him out of the White House and that was it. They tried to throw him in prison. The man is coming. And you have to adjust accordingly. Nexstar has to adjust. All these broadcast corporations have to adjust. Madison Avenue has to adjust. Wall Street has to adjust. Corporate America has to adjust. China's had to adjust. Mexico has had to adjust. France, England, Germany, everybody has to make an adjustment. It's the real world. I don't like it. I'm alarmed by it. I'm scared of it. But I have to march forward. As do all of you. That's what I was saying about Jimmy Kimmel. That's what I'd say about Stephen Colbert or anybody else. Part of winning the game is knowing the game you're playing and adjusting accordingly to ensure that when all is said and done, you come out on top.
You know, y'all are something else. You really are.
Now he's just screaming, what about Jimmy Kimmel's freedom of speech? His freedom of speech. Where were your concerns about freedom of speech when Gina Carano was fired from Disney? Or Roseanne was fired from her show on ABC, or Tucker Carlson was let go on Fox, or Megyn Kelly was let go from her show. I didn't hear a whimper of freedom of speech. You just welcomed it. Jimmy Kimmel got up on his show and lied about the alleged Charlie Kirk shooter and said he was MAGA, when the alleged shooter's mother, FBI, and local authorities said he's been radicalized by the left in the last year. Okay? Jimmy Kimmel mocked Charlie Kirk's death. He mocked Trump supporters. He mocked Trump's grievances in regards to Charlie Kirk's death. And he lied. He lied. Even the chairman of the FCC, Brendan Carr, wants to launch an investigation against Jimmy Kimmel. And I'm hearing Jimmy Kimmel does not want to apologize. Good, because we never want to see him on TV again. And I hope you're consistent and he's removed from the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Just remember this, y'all. Y'all created cancel culture, and now we're reaping the benefits.
So Jimmy Kimmel got fired for using his freedom of speech, for just saying what's on his mind. Man, they trying to silence us all, no matter what color we are.
In the wake of everyone canceling their Disney, ESPN, and Hulu, absolutely keep going with this. But I wanted to provide an alternative. So about 3 years ago, me and my husband canceled all of our subscriptions because we were pissed off that we were paying 5 different subscription services, plus then we had to pay $5 to rent a movie, and enough is enough. So we actually got internet TV and a Fire Stick, and we have access to absolutely everything that you can find on every subscription service: Apple, Hulu, Disney, plus any show or movie that has been ever produced, you can find. It has cable TV channels, everything. You can even get TV in Serbia. It's insane. So cancel your Disney and get internet TV. And I want to say, I'm Canadian, but I want to say we pay maybe $250 US. Our cable, internet, and our subscription services were costing us over $2,500 a year. And now we pay $250 US.
My reaction when I heard about Jimmy Kimmel's suspension was, I immediately flashed back to the television show that Vladimir Putin took off the air. It was a puppet show. It wasn't even that great. But its whole thing was that it ridiculed people in power and it reduced them to the size of puppets, right? It made them look not just plainly human, but even sort of less than human. And I think that's the real power of comedians in an autocracy, is that they reduce the tyrant to human size or even to less than human size. If you think about what Jimmy Kimmel said, it wasn't even much of a joke.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
By describing plainly what he had observed over the weekend, Jimmy Kimmel broke with the consensus that is being very forcefully imposed by the Trump administration. Everyone is supposed to be in mourning. Everyone is supposed to act as though the murder of Charlie Kirk is not an individual tragedy, but a national tragedy, a life-changing event for an entire country. And Jimmy Kimmel talked about it as something serious, but he did not pretend that it was something that was a tragedy for the entire nation. And I think that's what he's really being punished for, is for breaking with consensus.
Disney and the ABC network are taking Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely.
There's something extraordinary about the speed with which ABC and Nexstar and Sinclair responded to signals from the administration. what that tells us is that we're really in a new situation. We're in a situation where network executives, they're perceiving the presidential administration not as something that they criticize, but as a place from which they take orders or at least receive signals that should inform their actions.
President Trump says federal regulators should consider revoking broadcast licenses for networks that, quote, give me only bad publicity.
The only way for the media to resist is to band together, to create a joint strategy, to agree, for example, never to settle Trump's lawsuits, to agree to defend one another, to provide individuals with institutional backing, even if they weren't working for a large institution when they were sued. I don't see that's happening. And unless it happens, we've already lost.
Thing with Kimmel, they're now facing the consequences of the choices that they made to appeal to a very, very narrow audience. Again, you can do that. You can start a podcast. You can go on YouTube. But if you're going to have a license from the FCC, we expect you to broadly serve the public interest.
Absolutely wrong. When Brendan Carr, the chair of the FCC, mentions that broadcast licenses, broadcast stations must act in a public interest, he knows, but you don't know, that the only time that FCC pulls licenses is during license renewal periods. They rarely pull it mid-term. Like if you're owning a license, once you get it, you have it for the entire duration of your license term. Now, during the license renewal, they open up for public notice of comment. It's a period when the public can actually come in and say there's a reason why the license shouldn't be renewed. That's when people can say or mention something about Jimmy Kimmel's one-time remark during one season during the course of the 8-year term of the license. Yeah, he can't just come in there and yank it. The extent to which the FCC can actually punish content on air is related and limited to decency and the impact of the children, even the community standards, but decency, and also as related to children. And there's nothing that Jimmy Kimmel said in that little tiny snippet is indecent or considered in violation of the Children's Decency Law or the Communications Decency Act. No. There's nothing. So he can't. He has nothing. Now, what this really is about, and I'm going to tell you how we, the people, actually can reverse it on Disney. What really happened is one of Disney's major distribution partners is seeking a merger that would cause a concentration of ownership. So they need a waiver. And it's an unspoken rule that the chair can actually usher in the waiver. However, the chair still has to do a public and comment period. So during that public and comment period, us members of the public can go in and flood the FCC and say why that merger is against the public interest, because it would create concentration, which would be against the diversity, viewpoint diversity, ownership diversity that's standard in the FCC. And when the public floods it and there's more evidence and the record is full of people saying don't do it, then you know what that means? That means that they're not supposed to. Under the Administrative Procedure Act, they can't act unilaterally. You have to act in the public interest. And the public says deny that merger. So we can actually be the ones to deny the merger, not Disney, not FCC, not Brendan Carr. So how about that? How about that? Bring Kimmel back and we will leave you alone. We won't mess up with your merger. See, we have more power than we can now. People may say that they're lawless. They may not abide, but we'll see. It doesn't hurt. That's a chapter. What you think? Let's talk about it. JJ Legal. I'm in the dockets. Share this video so more people know.
First things first, Jimmy Kimmel, cancelled rightly, or has he been thrown under the bus unceremoniously?
No, he's been rightly cancelled. I don't even know if it's a cancellation. Everybody keeps saying, oh, this is a violation of the First Amendment, of free speech. This isn't a free speech issue. Jimmy Kimmel is an employee of a company. If he had his own show on his own website, and let's say the government silenced him or canceled the website, that's a free speech issue. But here you work for a company, you're supposed to be a comedian, you're not funny, the joke wasn't funny, you are offensive, and you have low ratings, so you're going to be fired. It's sort of like Stephen Colbert, right? He was running a $40 million deficit. He wasn't funny. He wasn't interesting. Guess what? They canceled him. It wasn't about politics. It was about follow the money. You're not doing that well. But what's interesting is that the folks on the left, they're more upset about Jimmy Kimmel being put on pause, put on leave, than they are Charlie Kirk, who was violently assassinated. So these people are hypocrites, and it's why I don't take them seriously. I have no sympathy for Jimmy Kimmel. He's not that funny. He's basically a partisan hack. And if you're going to make a joke about Charlie Kirk's death, you're a pretty disgusting person.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think lots of our viewers would agree as well. The argument, though, Link, from the left is that President Trump installed Brendan Carr into the FCC, the sort of regulator here, which manages all the top sort of American news networks, including ABC. And Carr is now hauling all those networks before the commission and clamping down on them for various issues. They're saying it's politically motivated. Trump's just put his guy into the FCC. Do you see anything in that?
No, I actually don't think it's politically motivated at all. You know, President Trump is very busy. I think people are overestimating how much time he's spending on ABC and Disney Company and all of their shows and their networks. I think he's busy running the country. I think the bottom line here is Jimmy Kimmel, the joke wasn't funny. It was offensive. He also straight up lied. Let's say he's not a comedian. He's a journalist. You lied. You said the killer was a right-wing MAGA guy, conservative. Why would the killer be MAGA conservative? Everything shows he's the complete opposite.
So I'm going to explain to you the real reason the Jimmy Kimmel show was canceled. And it's not what you think it is. It's actually an economic business decision. Watch this. These are the Nielsen ratings. And as you see here, Jimmy Kimmel, his ratings were dropping. At one point during 2014, he had 700,000 viewers that would watch his show on average every single night. Fast forward to almost a decade later, 160,000 people would watch his show. That's a huge problem, especially when they paid him $16 million per year. And that cost of $16 million, that's just his salary. That doesn't include the writers, the producers, the makeup artists, the camera people. Think of all the individuals that are involved in producing a show like this, the booking agents. It goes on and on and on. The cost is substantial. And for context, when I post this video across my social channels, I will probably do triple those numbers. And truthfully, if it were me and I was stuck on a multi-year contract, I would look for something, an opportunity like this, where you can execute the moral clause. Yes, these exist. When someone does something that is, say, immoral, you can execute that clause and it allows you to cancel the contract. So if there's 2 years left, meaning you're on the hook for another $32+ million, let's assume each year the show costs you $40 to $50 million per year to produce it, you're going to be out $100 million. Or you can pull the plug early and cut your losses, because you're no longer getting that ROI that you used to. And as much as people want to blame Donald Trump, that was just an easy scapegoat for the executives to say, adios, because this investment no longer works for us. That's my opinion. That's what I would do.
Hey, y'all. I just walked past 3 ladies while I was hiking, and they were talking about Jimmy Kimmel's situation. And I was really upset about that yesterday, because why are we back in censorship, state-run TV? And I don't even like Jimmy Kimmel, and I was so upset. But then I must have slept on it. And I woke up today and I was like, didn't they do this to Trump? They took everything from him, banned him over a tweet, froze his accounts, everything, applauded and laughed. They also did it to Kanye West. To this day, Kanye West cannot book a concert venue over speech. And so, and y'all applaud, y'all laugh, you're okay with it. But Jimmy Kimmel, y'all up in arms. And I hate all this because as an independent, I'm stuck in the middle of my rights getting taken. But I guess it boils down to that old saying, ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun.
Disney's going to learn the hard way to not bend the knee. So I just heard that Jimmy Kimmel just filed a $1 billion lawsuit against Disney for violating his freedom of speech. You see, Jimmy has this little contract with them, and in that contract, it says that as long as he doesn't speak any of the 7 words, and if you don't know what they are, go look at them, that you are not allowed to say on television, then he can say whatever he wants. And that includes political commentary. So Disney was so worried about bending the knee and being scared of our president's lawsuits because his feelings, Jimmy's going to hit him hard. $1 billion. And I'm sure you're thinking, oh, that's nothing to Disney. Wait till all these canceled subscriptions start rolling in and the boycotts start rolling in. Big media, you want to bend the knee to fascism? You're going to pay the price.
Free speech. Your Vice President Vance said that free speech is under attack in the UK. Do you agree with him? And Prime Minister, we saw the dismissal of a very well-known chat show host in America last night, Mr. Kimmel. Is free speech more under attack in Britain or America?
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else. And he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent. Yeah, please go ahead.
Donald Trump wants you to believe the battle is already lost, that resistance is futile, that his grip on power is unshakable, and that his authoritarian machine is unstoppable. But that narrative is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. The reality is simple. Trump is losing, in the courts, in the polls, and in the eyes of the American people. His approval ratings continue to collapse, and every desperate stunt only underscores his weakness. And here's the twist. The latest clash over free speech makes it undeniable. After Trump pressured ABC into suspending Jimmy Kimmel last night, he thought he had muzzled a critic. Instead, he set off a legal earthquake that's now detonating right under his feet. What Trump tried to project as strength has revealed itself for what it really is: sheer panic. And we're going to unpack every detail. But before we dig into the fallout, a quick note. If you believe in independent voices that refuse to bow to political intimidation, make sure to like this video, hit subscribe, and help us keep this channel strong. Now, let's begin with what I consider the most powerful response yet to Trump's assault on free speech, delivered by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Joining me now is Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. This is, as I just said, this is much bigger than a media story. It feels to me, first of all, Brendan Carr went out today, the FCC chair, and basically called out Jimmy Kimmel by name. And then a couple of hours later, he was put on indefinite, hiatus, suspension, whatever you want to call it. Does this feel, it feels to me like obedience in advance. Does it feel to you like that?
It's intimidation, clearly. And this is what we're seeing across the board from the Trump administration. They're using the power of the government to go after businesses, to get them to do things that they need or want, right? Either to pay them, as we have seen, or to fire people, as we have seen. And here we have a comedian. I mean, this is somebody who's on every night, frankly, probably offending somebody every single night.
He may have made fun of you before.
Indeed, he has. And so I just want to say that, we should not be going after people for this. Look, did he get some things wrong? Yeah. I mean, but he is not a commentator, a news anchor. This is somebody who's a comedian, for goodness sakes. And now we've got the Trump administration literally.
Guys, the firing of Jimmy Kimmel is not about Charlie Kirk. Stay with me. It's Donald Trump. It's about money. We have too many monopolies in this country, meaning we have laws that say, for instance, if there's T-Mobile and AT&T, they cannot merge. This just happened with Kroger and Albertsons. The government denied them merging because it would be a monopoly. ABC was trying to merge, and that's why Trump's crony, the head of the FCC, got rid of Jimmy Kimmel. This is strictly about money. Please don't be distracted. Donald Trump doesn't care about Charlie Kirk. Remember when he said Charlie who and started talking about the ballroom? Let's get the real word out. Let's spread the real information. This is so that a media company doesn't merge with another media company, creating a monopoly. This is what the FCC is supposed to protect us from. Right now, though, we have criminals in power. Please, let's get the word out about the truth.
We have big news right now. The former CEO of Disney is coming out and slamming current CEO Bob Iger for essentially deplatforming Jimmy Kimmel. This is significant and shows that more and more people are coming out against Disney, against ABC. It's a new statement from Michael Eisner, who writes, "Where has all the leadership gone? If not for university presidents, law firm managing partners, and corporate chief executives standing up against bullies, who then will stand up for the First Amendment?" The suspending indefinitely of Jimmy Kimmel immediately after the chairman of the FCC's aggressive yet hollow threatening of the Disney company is yet another example of out-of-control intimidation. Maybe the Constitution should have said Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press except in one's political or financial self-interest. By the way, for the record, this ex-CEO finds Jimmy Kimmel very talented and funny. There is a real movement to cancel now Disney and ABC. And more people are speaking out, so spread the word and follow along for more.
This whole industry is under fire because one guy got his feelings hurt.
I thought it was unacceptable. Disney is the corporation that just produced Andor. They just won an Emmy. That's exactly what we're showing, the dangers of fascism. And we're here to stand up for it because while we still are able to.
It's a trampling of their First Amendment rights. And instead of fighting it, they simply capitulated, which is so disappointing. Our federal government is being weaponized to protect one man's feelings. And it would be so absurd if it wasn't so dangerous, too.
One of America's pastimes is stand-up comedians making fun of the president. If we can't do that anymore, then we don't have freedom of speech.
Disney's going to learn the hard way to not bend the knee. So I just heard that Jimmy Kimmel just filed a $1 billion lawsuit against Disney for violating his freedom of speech. See, Jimmy has this little contract with them, and in that contract, it says that as long as he doesn't speak any of the 7 words, and if you don't know what they are, go look at them, that you are not allowed to say on television, then he can say whatever he wants. And that includes political commentary. So Disney was so worried about bending the knee and being scared of our president's lawsuits because his feelings, Jimmy's going to hit him hard. $1 billion. And I'm sure you're thinking, oh, that's nothing to Disney. Wait till all these canceled subscriptions start rolling in and the boycotts start rolling in. Big media, you want to bend the knee to fascism? You're going to pay the price.
There is so much noise around the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel, but most of it is useless because no matter how strongly you feel about it, just like we saw with Tucker Carlson and Bill O'Reilly, it's not illegal to fire somebody for what they say. You just can't charge them with a crime for it. So then the question becomes, is the situation with Jimmy Kimmel different? And in this case, without hesitation, I can tell you the answer is yes. But I didn't know this until I read an article buried in Politico, written by a law professor at the University of Chicago named Aziz Huq. He believes Jimmy Kimmel should sue the Trump administration and that he can win, and that would hold up all the way up to the Supreme Court. At the heart of the reason why is the relationship between government policies and private actions. And his perspective is rooted in a case that was decided only last year by this exact Supreme Court. That case dealt with the rights of social media companies to suppress misinformation around a very specific and very controversial jab. You know the one. Now that case against the Biden administration was dismissed because even though the Republicans on the court wanted to side with the plaintiffs were unable to prove specific causation between the Biden administration's policies and any actual suppression of speech by social media companies. Basically, no one could prove that the Biden administration took specific direct or indirect action to try to force a social media company to suppress speech. In this case, Amy Coney Barrett sided with Biden and said there was a lack of specific causation findings with respect to any discrete instance of content moderation. Like I said, no link. However, in this case with Jimmy Kimmel, it's the exact opposite. Not only is there a link, it's a 10,000-ton anchor chain. Brendan Carr, the FCC commissioner appointed by Trump, said on air that ABC needed to punish Jimmy Kimmel or face consequences. He said, and I quote, "These companies can find ways to take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead." And as a result, it looks like the FCC is both going to change monopoly rules and approve the merger between Nexstar and Tegna, two massive businesses that own tons of ABC affiliates across the country. In other words, to keep money flowing for everyone, they had to keep Trump happy, so he uses government to help them instead of to block them. Not only is there an obvious link between the government's choices and the actions of a private employer to censor speech, you'd be a clown to call it anything but airtight. But how airtight is this? Just last year, Samuel Alito himself said, and I quote, "Government officials may not coerce private entities to suppress speech." And in another case last year, Alito said the First Amendment prohibits government officials from relying on the threat of invoking legal sanctions and other means of coercion to achieve the suppression of disfavored speech. Meanwhile, Neil Gorsuch said that a plaintiff could win if they could prove that the government's action, when viewed in context, could be reasonably understood to convey a threat of adverse government action in order to punish or suppress the plaintiff's speech. Taken together, what they're saying is the government cannot directly or indirectly coerce the suppression of speech. And in the event they do, both Jimmy Kimmel and ABC could have standing to sue. And honestly, if Kimmel files this suit, it's a win-win, because the Supreme Court either sides against the Trump administration and confirms that now and into the future the Trump administration is barred from punishing critics, or the Supreme Court flips on itself and establishes a new precedent that could allow future Democratic presidents to do exactly to Fox News and Newsmax what Trump has done to Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert. And while I think we would all prefer to side with free speech, I could also get used to the idea of a world without Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity. Like I said, win-win.
Breaking news. Jimmy Kimmel is suing Disney for $1 billion. After being wrongfully terminated from Jimmy Kimmel Live, Jimmy Kimmel has now gone and filed a lawsuit for $1 billion against Disney for wrongful termination. Jimmy Kimmel's contract, it specifies that as long as he doesn't use the 7 words that is outlawed on national television, that he is allowed to speak on any topics, including political satire or political topics, without any repercussions or firing from the studio. Jimmy Kimmel show did not actually come out and say anything against Tyler Robinson or CK. In fact, his comments were very neutral to the fact that Rolling Stone broke an article saying that after speaking to executives had thought that Jimmy Kimmel's statements on Monday night's television show wasn't actually over the line at all, but were capitulating to the fact that this administration was going to force or try to remove their broadcasting licenses. That being said, it doesn't give Disney just cause to fire Jimmy Kimmel, considering he was exercising his First Amendment rights. You know, the First Amendment rights, the one where we're allowed to speak our mind, to speak freely to the things that we believe in, just like CK. Although the things that CK actually spoke about, if you posted them in this platform, would be flagged as hate speech or violation of community guidelines. What do you guys think? Please leave a comment.
In the United States said it wouldn't air Kimmel on its ABC stations starting tonight.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but Jimmy Kimmel's show definitely deserved to be canceled. I don't know, what's so hard to understand about this. This isn't anything new for what companies do on the regular to people. And before you rush the comments saying free speech this, shut the hell up, because first off, a lot of y'all on the left don't even believe in true free speech. Y'all been canceling people for what they said 20 plus years ago. So we're not trying to hear y'all right now. But the difference in this situation, Jimmy Kimmel's show is under the parent company of ABC. They own the show. Therefore, Jimmy Kimmel works for ABC, aka Disney as well. He's not being prosecuted. See, the First Amendment protects you from the government. The government can't just come into your house and arrest you for what you said on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or what you said in your personal life to other people. But ABC and Disney can fire your ass for what you say. That could be a detriment to the company, especially their bottom line. And what Jimmy Kimmel did was blatantly lied on air in front of all his audience and in front of all of America. And Jimmy Kimmel straight up lied to everybody. He lied to his audience, his live audience, and to the people at home on live television. And ABC fired his ass. You can't just lie to people on live television when you have the facts. ABC has every right to fire Jimmy Kimmel or to get rid of his show. They have every right to do that. Jimmy Kimmel could still lie. He could still go do his own thing. He just can't do it under ABC and Disney. That's the difference. You can do all that stuff, but ABC is saying you're not going to do it over here and fuck up our name and fuck up our reputation, even though they're already corrupt, but still. And I'm sure, they got outside, pressure from other sources or higher up people, maybe from the U.S. government. But nonetheless, ABC took action, did what any company normally does that has something they set, a standard they set, and somebody within their company don't meet the standards. They canned his ass. They did what every other company, every other U.S. company has been doing for the last hundreds of years. So please shut up with the free speech argument. You look stupid because Jimmy Kimmel's not facing prosecution. He's not facing charges for what he said. He just got fucking fired, as he should. The show sucked. He's not funny. That's the number one thing, really. He's just not funny. And the ratings has been trash for these late night shows for the last decade. Nobody watches late night shows anymore. So that's another reason. He's not generating any new eyes. He's not generating really revenue for ABC and Disney. So yeah, it's easy to can him. And on top of that, he's lied to the American people. He lied on national television. So yeah, you got to go. Your credibility is shot.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.